At this time, we will call December the 16th, 2020, Walton County Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. If you would, please stand as we have our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, if you would, do the invocation, please.
Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to live in this great nation. Please guide us here tonight to do what's best for our county and our citizens. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We do appreciate all the board members being here tonight. This is our November meeting that is moved a little earlier than the third and fourth Thursday because of Thanksgiving. We do appreciate our attorney for his presence here along with the secretary, and the members of the planning department did not show up. We have one. How about our attorney? Do we have them on Zoom? We don't have no attorneys.
I don't believe there's any county attorneys.
Do we have anybody on Zoom tonight? Interesting. Very good. Do we have any announcement needs to be made?
The only announcement I'll make at this time is we did receive a final order related to an appeal that was made to the circuit court here in Walton County. The matter was the applicant's name was Hayden. I don't know if any of you remember. That was a lot split issue dealing with, I believe it was Turtle Cove or Turtle something other. I wasn't here for that meeting. Ms. Camilla had covered that. Had Mr. Pleat as well as Mr. Shipman. Anyway, long story short is that matter was Judge Lewis ruled that the matter needed to come back to this board for a rehearing. He claimed that there was a due process issue, but that matter is probably not going to come back till sometime next year. But we'll let you know. That's the only real legal update that I have for the board.
Explain to them why you think it's not going to come back before this board for a year. Are you going to file an appeal to the judge's decision, or is there going to be an appeal
well,
to
at this
the
point, there's a pending motion for rehearing that was filed by Gary Shipman's office. That was filed, 1 second, past Thursday. They filed a motion for rehearing. So that matter will have to be heard or decided by the court. And then if that...
A motion rehearing before the court?
The circuit court, correct,
Circuit court.
in front of Judge Lewis.
Are you going to be at that meeting?
If the judge has a hearing.
Were you at the last, did you have a hearing the last time that when he heard the appeal, was there a hearing?
No, there was no oral arguments. Most of the time when it comes to that stage, it's just written documents, pleadings put in to the record, and then the judge makes his decision. The judge has the ability to do oral arguments if he wishes, but that's a rarity. You know, usually the judge feels he can make his decision based on the record and the pleadings presented. On this, the judge could decide to have a hearing, or he could decide to deny the motion summarily, and then the decision will have to be made whether to appeal Judge Lewis's decision to the first DCA or to just have that matter come back before the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
The board have the right to ask for an appeal to the DCA, or how's that going to work?
At this point, I mean, I think it's a little premature. Once we know what's going to happen with
Maybe
this.
Maybe premature, but I'd just like for the board to know the process.
Yeah. If the board wishes to make that known, that would be something I would coordinate with the Walton County's attorney, Ms. Noyes.
Is the code counsel that was involved in that, are they requesting would they do the appeal? And
They could.
If they do the appeal, would you join in on the appeal?
Yeah, we would be a party to that, so we would have to file a pleading, some sort of response to the appeal.
So there's a motion to have a hearing filed by Mr. Shipman,
Correct.
and we'll wait for the judge to make that determination.
Yes, sir.
If he decides not to have a hearing, then it would come back for this board, and then we could discuss it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a possibility that each of the board members could get a copy of that final order? Because I think since I've been serving on this board, that's the first time we had a judge to send something back. And
Yeah.
I would like to see the order,
Yeah,
and I'd like for each of the board members to have a copy of the order.
yeah, we can make that available.
And I don't understand, I think there's reference, you said that there was some issue with some evidence not being allowed to be entered because it did not give him due process?
No, it wasn't necessarily evidence. I think when you see the order, the gist of the order was the court had some issue with how the hearing was conducted. That hearing, Mr. Shipman's client had requested a lot split. That was ultimately approved by the planning director. Some neighbors in that subdivision objected and appealed Mr. Carpenter's decision to grant the lot split, permit the lot split. Mr. Shipman, his clients had been approved for the lot split, so he came in and wanted to make arguments on why the decision of the building official should be upheld. In that matter, again, I wasn't here, but you may recall Ms. Noyes made an announcement that because Mr. Shipman's clients, as well as the county, were similarly aligned, she was going to join in the arguments Mr. Shipman made, and basically allowed Mr. Shipman to make a majority of the arguments that night before this board on why it should upheld that decision of Mr. Carpenter. The court felt, and you'll see it in the order, the court came to the conclusion that the county should have presented and not let Mr. Shipman present the county's portion. Mr. Shipman can present on behalf of his client, but the county should not have just joined in with them. The county should have presented their case. So, again, it's a pretty lengthy order. We can definitely get it out to the board. If you read it and you have any particular questions, by all means, reach out to me and we can discuss.
Are you going to be the one to file the appeal, or did you file the appeal, or was it the lady that was present at the meeting?
Well, the appeal was filed by, to the circuit court, was filed by Mr. Pleat and his client.
But you answered it. Did you answer it?
I didn't answer it. Ms. Camella, since she was at the hearing, I asked her to do it since she was.
Right. And she'll do the next one?
She may. I may be able to take that one on. In that case, it was just a matter of, since she sat through the hearing, she knew what was said and what was not said. She was best suited for that.
I think she's the one who should have answered it.
Yeah, and she may end up, dealing with any subsequent appeals.
We have some other cases where Mr. Shipman and other attorneys has joined on behalf of the county. Are they going to get rejected also because of this ruling?
I don't think so. If you may recall, there were specific objections made by Mr. Pleat at that hearing where he didn't feel that was appropriate. So he preserved that issue on appeal. So unless it's reserved on appeal, you can't really argue things that you didn't bring up as issues, to let you guys to look at it. There's only one other one that may become an issue, and that was a pleading that was on the 187 San Roy Road. I think that's a different situation. I don't think it's comparing apples to apples, but I will tell you, in that case, one of the neighboring property owners who objected to the variance request filed a copy of the Hayden order to say, look, Judge, we think this would be appropriate. I disagree. That was filed last week or so. So we'll just have to see how that
That
plays.
was filed last week. That appeal's been going on for a year and a half now?
Correct. Yeah, it's been out there a while.
About 3 years.
Yes, a very long time.
And he filed how did he file last week?
No, they just filed a copy of the Hayden order. One of the attorneys did.
Got it, copied it, and sent it to the judge.
Yeah, but it's the same judge. The judge is Judge Lewis's order. But that was done. I think they're trying to kind of push some things together and make some comparisons that I don't believe are there. But we'll just have to kind of see where it falls out.
Moving forward, do we need to not let the county join in with the?
Yeah, I think going forward, and having spoken to Ms. Noyes, until Hayden has kind of worked its way through the legal system, whether it goes to the first DCA or not. The recommendation is going to be for county and county staff to present the county side of it. If somebody's here on behalf, that's an affected party, they are definitely and should be heard by this board. But to just say whatever they argue, we'll jump on. I think it may lengthen some of our hearings, but based on what the current order is, I think that's the safest way to ensure that we don't have something kicked back because of that type of issue.
Okay.
I know you've been away for a few meetings. Do you have anything to say? It's going to take a little while to get. Anyone has any questions, any concerns? At this time, we ask that each and every person here tonight that plan to speak before this board, if you stand and raise your right hand and swear that the testimony you give will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you.
First item on the agenda tonight is
Number 9 and number 4.
where you get
Well, number 4 is just,
where you get this?
that was just sitting there on your desk.
Stephen, we have some items that is asking for continuance tonight. All right, item number 4 is asking continuance till the December, and item number 9 is, let's specify, lot 8, 9, 10 Beach Highland variance. Asking for continuance in December meeting. What day is that?
The 10th, I believe, sir.
December the 10th,
14th.
December 14th.
Oh, I'm thinking of Planning Commission. Thank you.
And then Blue Gulf Townhomes Appeal is also December the 14th. Have a motion?
Motion to continue. Both items 4 and number 9.
Have a motion second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Very good.
Is there anyone here that would plan to speak on any of those items? About the lot 8, 9, and 10 Beach Highlands variance, or the Blue Gulf Townhomes Appeal?
First item on the agenda would be the Schoen petition for conditional use of an RV. Come out and state your name for the record.
Haley Scholl.
Item number 2. Go ahead.
Basically, we lost our trailer to a windstorm and the tree severed it in half. They had to remove the tree. They had to cut the power off. So when the church that had done that, they called Chelco, cut the power off, and basically we're just here to get the power cut back on for our RV.
All right, now do what now? You lived at, section 5, 3 North 16 is over around.
No,
West?
sir.
Huh?
Mine is 896 Berry Ann Lake Road.
Westville. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Westville.
Yes.
That's right. You're down close to Coon Bottom,
Yes.
and you live down in a mobile home.
We'd had the mobile home that was 3 years ago, but then the tree fell through it, separated it in half, and then they cut the power off. So now we're trying to get the power.
You have a power pole there, you have a
Yes, sir.
septic tank, you live there.
Everything's there.
This has been a lot of record for many, many years, just asking to get the power turned back on.
Yes, basically.
County said you had to come before us, and because they passed that, you can't live in an RV, and you want to put an RV.
Yes, sir.
Anyone has any questions? Have a seat, we'll get you come back up in just
Thank
a
you.
minute. What's your name? You state your name for the record? Okay. Stephen, what you think?
Stephen Schoen, Planning and Development Services. It appears that this application satisfies the conditional use requirements of the code, and staff supports the request.
Thank you, Stephen.
Enter-
We're gonna,
First one in
Does he
how
wanna
many
enter the
years?
staff report?
You
we're gonna
wanna enter
introduce,
the- Yes, we so entered the staff report. Anyone here in opposition, anyone else has anything to say? You wanna add anything? You good with it? You want your husband to speak? You want him to come up? You don't want him to? Motion to close the public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second. Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion? Come on, boys, this is simple.
Motion to-
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
You got your variance. You can put your electricity on and good luck.
it's actually a conditional use, not a,
Approval. Not a variance.
the RV.
Pardon me?
Not a variance.
It's not a variance, it's a conditional use. It's not the same thing legally.
So you-
They got it anyway.
You wait. You can have your power turned on. Y'all welcome to stay or you can leave, whatever you want to do. How long will it be, Hayward?
I can have it tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest.
I would try to get it signed for you so you can get this done. I know y'all. Appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, we appreciate you coming. Yes, sir. Have a good one. What's the third one? Mac Carpenter variance, request for final approval. Who's here for the Mac Carpenter? Item number 3, variance. Darrell Barnhill. Mr. Barnhill? Evidently, he didn't get the notification. We had a meeting on Monday. Ms. Barnhill's not here. Anybody here for the Mac Carpenter variance? Number 4 has been continued. How about number 5? 4228 Highway 38.
We need to continue that one for them? or-
Yeah, I would recommend you just make a motion if you wish to continue that to the December meeting.
Motion,
Motion to continue.
second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Try and get her to speak a little bit.
I'll run to the restroom real quick. I can be right back.
We're gonna take a 5-minute, this is a long one, this is the one. I want you to understand something now. We do have a guy that can understand the technical issues. Y'all said we were not capable of understanding. Mr. Jeff is here tonight.
I don't recall ever saying
Appreciate y'all
that.
coming. Yeah,
I
that's what
think
I
that
said.
was Melissa that said that. But yeah, she
Jeff,
did say that 'cause
appreciate
Jeff
you
wasn't here.
coming.
This is the one that we kicked back for them to send us more drawings. You didn't add any more drawings. You didn't hear that.
This is the one before that.
Back in, and it's still
They
missing all
continued it again.
See what they got.
Continued it.
Oh, no, not this one, the one that we just continued. Drawings we asked for. It'd give us a floor plan and some elevations. They're still showing the chimney shooting up through there.
You talking about the Mac Carpenter?
Yeah.
You talking about the Mac Carpenter?
I was gonna suggest the county have them provide the plans and elevations that we asked them for.
Hang on a minute, Jeff. Let's get back. Let's wait till what?
One that we just continued.
Make order.
Missing all the additional information we
Yep.
have.
I put what they supplied, but I'll make sure that I reiterate that the board is seeking additional.
Otherwise, they're gonna be,
We'll hear it. Yeah. 4228 Highway 38 is the one we started last month. We needed more information.
What if I do?
Side variance, they're at.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
they don't have a job. Oh, you back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're ready.
I'll reconvene.
Jeff, did you take care of your request? You did, right? All right. State your name for the record.
All right, Stephen Tatum, Tatum, from Matthews and Jones. Here on behalf of the Karen Box Bennett Revocable Trust, owners of 422830A. We were before you last month. There was lots of questions about setbacks, previous setbacks. The other attorney's not here tonight, but let me just familiarize you maybe a little bit with the project again so we're all clear on where we were. This property is part of the Dana Beach subdivision. It's a 10-lot subdivision, covers roughly 7.3 acres. It's on 30A, south of 30A, between the Gulf and 30A. It was developed in '93. At the time, still the lots were 60 to 70 feet wide, depending on which lot you're looking at. Ours in particular is a 60-foot wide lot. There was some discrepancy last time about the width because of the angle at the road being 62.33 feet, but Mr. Burgess kind of, I think, got us back on track that it was, when you take the angle out, we're at a 60-foot width, and that's what our site plans show as well, a 60-foot width. Let's see, in 1990, okay, so the CCRs originally for that development were recorded in 1995. You have a copy of those in your staff report. There was an amendment in '96. The 1996 amendment allowed for there to be the construction of 2 structures on each lot comprising no more than 5 dwelling units. So essentially you're going to have one structure with 3 units and one structure with 2 units. And that's the way the property is developed for the most part. When you look at an aerial, I'll show you in a minute, you'll see that almost every lot in that subdivision in that area has developed with a 3-2 setup, except for ours. We have one triplex on the north end of the lot. The south end is a vacant lawn at this point. In 2004, the Bennetts purchased the north half of that lot that had the triplex on it. In 2008, when the south half of the lot came available, they purchased it as well and left it vacant. It still is today. Their intent was always to redevelop that property to meet the same standard that the rest of the area developed as, with that 3-2 split between units and 2 structures. Unfortunately, you know what happened in 2008 or around that time with the economy. So now that things are recovering, development's booming again, the wish is to go forward with those redevelopment plans. The first hurdle we had to cross was, all right, so the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions said that you can do the 5 units on it because we're in a zoning district called residential preservation, which only allows 1 dwelling unit per acre or per lot. We had to go to Mr. Carpenter and have him issue a director's determination, which you also have in your packet, which stated that because our CCR amendment was passed prior to the 1996 comp plan adoption, then we could use that density that was allowed in our declaration. So you have a copy of that it's in your it's in your packet I just gave you, which, by the way, Hayward, can we move that in as composite exhibit A or applicant's composite exhibit A?
The whole package?
Just the whole package. It'll be a composite exhibit.
Go in.
Thank you. Let me grab mine. So that director's determination is exhibit 5 in that package, just in case you want to see it. Okay. Nope, not at all. Everybody was flipping. All right, once we got the director's determination, the next step was come to you. According to Mac, we needed to ask for a variance for the side setbacks. When I came to you last month, I told you the setbacks were 7.5 feet on each side. I was wrong. And I apologize for that. Was not trying to intentionally mislead you at all. It's a good thing Melissa was here. She got us all straight. After doing a little research, and as Mr. Schoen will tell you later, it is the original setbacks were 15 feet for multifamily structures over 4 stories tall, or 4 stories or taller. That doesn't really change.
That's before they changed.
That was actually in 1991 at least, yeah. Yeah, they stayed like that until 2018. Now in 2018, there's a whole nother setup that I'll get into in a minute. So like I said, our lot is 60 feet wide. Let's talk about the area a little bit for a minute. I've got something I want to show you. This will be applicant's B.
This is in the pamphlet, isn't it?
There's something like it blown up a little bit. So this gives you an idea of the general scheme of development in that area. It shows you the 3-2, but it also gives you a really good idea of how densely populated that area is, and gives you an idea of how close together the buildings are. You know, you're looking at them from an aerial view here, but for instance, you see the red box? That's lot 7 of Dana Beach. That is my client's property. You go directly to the west of that, you'll see a building that looks to be over the property line based on this aerial. It's not actually over the property line based on the survey that's in your packet. It's 7.3 feet from the property line. So that multifamily structure, 4 stories tall, right now has a setback of 7.3 feet. If you go further down to the west, you'll see, or I'm sorry, to the east, you'll see 2 more condominiums. Let me come up here to you. See these 2 right here?
How many lots over is that?
That would be lot 10, so 3 over.
Lot 9 and 10, or just lot 10 you're speaking of?
Just lot 10 I'm talking about there, because those are the only ones I could actually kind of confirm anything on without having a surveyor go out and look at everything. But those 2 are also utilizing setbacks of roughly 7.5 feet. I was able to determine that based on the declaration of condominium for the Seaview condos that I can give you here in just a second if you'd like to see them.
That's on both sides?
No, sir, just on the one side, just on the east side of those 2. So it appears that even though the county had a code requirement of 15 feet for multifamily structures, 4 stories tall, it maybe wasn't either enforcing them, utilizing them. Now,
Stories tall?
Yes,
How-
sir.
They were, okay.
yes, sir.
Are they piling structures?
They're piling parking underneath 3 stories above.
So the county does not consider the first level that's open parking?
But that was what we thought too, but we were considered a 4-story structure with our parking underneath for variance purposes.
Telling you about my personal experience.
When I ran into that once 3 years ago, on another one, but that was what the variance determination was in this case, was that was 4 stories. So,
Hang on a second. Stephen, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the code doesn't indicate stories. No, I believe it's 50 feet.
correct. It's about-
In the past, it was based on stories. I just wanted to clarify that point.
He's correct. That was actually the conversation we had.
Clarify what you just said?
Well, in the past, some of the stories, projects that I've done that have been tall and had 3 habitable stories above a parking level were considered.
So if that's the case, they would have needed to have a 10-foot setback under the old code, which they weren't 4-story, you're correct. If
But
well,
all these buildings, including the one that's on the parcel before it gets torn down.
I believe ours has on one side it has a 7.5 foot. On the other side, it's wider.
Driveway.
Yes, sir. That's correct. All right, back to where we were talking about. So our lot is 60 feet wide, as we talked about. So the new setback requirements that are in place, somewhat new setback requirements, in 2018 they were passed. On the west side of our property, because we're adjacent to another multifamily structure, we'll have a 15-foot setback. That's what the code would require. On the east side of the property, because we are adjacent to a single-family home, we have a 15-foot setback with an increase of 1/2 foot for every foot in height we go above, I don't remember now, was it 42? 36 feet. So that leaves us with 14 feet and extra height above between 36 and 50. So we have to be another 7 feet over from the property line. So essentially asking us to have a 22-foot setback on that side. Now
That's on the east side.
That's on the east side.
On
that's-
the west side, you said you had to do what?
15 feet.
That's parking lot, right? All
No,
that's
sir.
parking.
It's access drive to the front parcel, but it's also structure down near the water as well. And we'll show you the site plan in a minute. 23 feet. So if we were to do anyone were to do a 4-story structure on that lot, they would need to be, it would be 23 feet wide. And we brought a tape measure. If you'd like to see 23 feet, we could go ahead and do that now. I was going to save that, but it's roughly the width of this
Done
room.
some killer 23-foot wide.
But you're a really good architect. And like I said, this is the pattern of development in that area. The Bennettts bought the property in order to be able to utilize the 5 units that were allowed in the CCRs. When they bought the property, they were looking at the pattern of development out there, and this request is not to do anything other than what was already being done out there before. The building may look a little bit more modern than what was there before, but the actual development scheme is not any different. And we do have some site plans we'd like to go over with you. I think I'm going to let Mr. Nauer, the project engineer, come speak with y'all about. Yes, sir?
Is this the last lot in Dana Beach? Is the lot immediately to the east of it? Is that a different subdivision?
No, sir. The red outline that you see there is lot 7. There's 10 total lots. They start at the west and go to the east. And if you look, it's really the only lot that's not been fully developed. All the rest of them, they may have single-family structures on them, but they've got at least 2 single-family structures on them, and some of those houses are huge. If you'll look at, while we're discussing that, Exhibit 6 in that packet I gave you is a very ugly but rough breakdown of development in the area. Of our current structure that's on our lot? Cliff, do we know the answer to that? $40 to 42 feet on a 60-foot lot, so you're still getting, about less than 10 feet on each side, but it is a triplex, so it would have needed at least 10 feet on each side, not the 7.5 that. But if you look at that Exhibit 6, it gives you an idea of just what all has been done in the area. And the houses that are built on this, the single-family homes that are built, like take, for instance, lot number 9. That's that big blue 9. That house is a 12-bedroom, 12-bath house with 11,544 heated and cooled feet. So even though it may be a single-family home, it's most likely a short-term rental.
Is that Doodle's house?
I do not know. Do we know if that was Doodle's house?
No.
It's not.
Does it matter? We got about 5 more variances, so we.
Okay, all right. I'm going to wrap it up, let Cliff come back. I just want y'all to pay attention to that because it's not like we're going in the middle of, a very small subdivision and trying to put in some big complex. So I'm going to let Cliff come up now and speak with y'all and introduce a couple of exhibits as well. Actually, I'll go ahead and give you this one exhibit. This is the drive aisle and parking standards for Walton County. They're important
Thank
to
you.
our discussion.
Exhibit C. State your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Cliff Nauer, KNAUER, with Dewberry Engineers.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure.
At the previous hearing.
Have you got something you want us to see?
Yes, sir.
You got a lot of stuff you want us to see. Sure.
Had at the previous hearing.
Let me start over here and just pass it around.
Yes, sir. If you recall at the previous hearing, the issue that I discussed relating to doing any kind of development on this property was the Walton County Land Development Code requirements for parking and access aisles. I didn't have the Land Development Code regulations with me, but if you look at the table under parking space standards, under 90-degree parking, it requires a 20-foot stall depth and an aisle width of 24 feet. And the point that I made at the previous hearing was that regardless of what building footprint you put on this site, you pretty much are going to have at least 44 feet in width to have a drive aisle and any kind of 90-degree parking. There was some discussion with the board relating to the possibility of putting in angled parking. But unfortunately, there's not adequate room to put angled parking and turn around and get back out of the site. And so I think that the site plan that we have now with the footprint that we have now takes up about 45 feet.
That's just, which is exhibit. David, what was that? Exhibit A?
Positive Exhibit A?
Exhibit A, and that was your first page in composite exhibit A, right?
Have you got this one here?
We'll just mark this as applicant's Exhibit D.
B. Thank you. You came prepared tonight, didn't you? Yes, sir. That's the same thing, except this is colored.
So you can see on the site plan, what we show is 7.5 feet on each side. If you took out the requirements from the Land Development Code for the drive aisle width and the parking, you would use up 44 of the 45 feet that are required for the project that the owners would like to build. And the other foot is for the width of a wall. And so on the east property line, you'd have a 7.5 foot landscape buffer and side setback, 12-inch thick wall, and then your parking would start immediately next to the wall for 20 feet and then a 24-foot aisle.
That's
And-
on the east side or the west side?
Yes, sir. That's on the east side. Yes, sir. And then down towards the beach, so the parcel that's the furthest to the south, you would again have from the west property line a 7.5 foot side setback, and then you would have columns supporting the structure. And then you would have underneath the building would be the drive aisle, and then next to the drive aisle would be the 90-degree parking. And so the plan that they have put together essentially uses all of the 44 feet that the Land Development Code would require for access and 90-degree parking plus 1 foot.
And that's, you're saying that's why you need 7.5 on both sides?
Yes, sir.
Well, I have a question. If I were to design a single-family home on a lot that stretched from 38 down to the Gulf, how would you build 4 stories and 50 foot tall?
Yes, sir.
These are just multifamily stacked condominium units?
Yes, sir.
They have the same height limits?
Yes, sir.
as single-family dwellings.
They do.
Why would they be subject to increased setback requirements from a?
I think the issue is the county's got them described as multifamily units. And so, with duplexes, you would normally have one unit would be 3 or 4 stories high. And because these units are stacked on top of each other, they, I guess, look at the setbacks differently. But you theoretically could build a single-family residential house that would have the exact same footprint of this that would be allowed to have 7.5 feet.
A little more clear this time.
Yes, sir.
Oh, this time.
Yes, sir. I did my homework.
Study this time. Any questions? We'll give you opportunity to come back.
Thank you, sir. I have a black and white one with existing conditions, if anybody wants to see the existing conditions on the side as well.
Mr. Tatum, do you have anything to add at this time? Stephen?
If you already take the house down?
No, sir. The house is actually there. It's actually sitting right there. When we did our survey, we did the beach and the traffic survey. There on the survey had the house on it.
Do we need to do any disclosures? Hey. Do we need to refresh it?
As far as, at the last meeting, Mr. Tatum, you recall Mr. Burgess obviously disclosing that fact. I'm assuming the waiver that was made. Okay.
Very good. Go ahead, Stephen, what do you think?
Stephen Schoen, Plan Development Services. If I could have the staff report entered into the record, please.
What you gonna call that, the staff report?
We'll just, staff's exhibit 1.
So enter.
As you can see, there's very little difference in the staff report commentary. There's been some additional language referring to a code excerpt that staff was able to locate from 2003 of the Land Development Code, just simply to illustrate the fact that there has been this required increase in side setbacks for multifamily development prior to the current landowner having purchased the property. Other than that, staff has very little to add. The comments remain the same. The hardship is being self-created. It's directly related to the scope of the development. And again, staff would just like to add that hardship is not related to profit margin or any other kind of monetary driver. And in this case, it appears that that is part of the request.
Thank you. Any comments?
Yes. I had a question about all of the other homes that were developed in this subdivision were developed prior to this rule taking effect, that it required the increased setback.
The rules, last time there was language, we didn't think there was language for yet. In 2003, I think he provided that we still have to keep the foot.
These houses were all built before 2000.
I don't think so. Were they?
Yes. They predate the rule change, which is why they're all.
When was this subdivision put in? 1993?
So it predates the rule change. So the way that they did 60-foot wide lots was to accommodate a building in the front and a building in the back. So when you apply the new multifamily rules, you're rendering these lots as they were originally developed virtually unbuildable or impractical to build on. So we have a situation where the rules, if you were to develop the site today, they would have allowed wider lots so you could get a building. This is actually redevelopment for every other unit in there at the 7. So to apply the new standards.
And it's dated prior, and it's dated prior to 96. You agree?
I have not personally looked at the date of those structures, but I don't disagree with your assessment, but I would also just like to add that any redevelopment within that subdivision would be asked to meet the same standards that are currently being varied, or the request as you have it in front of you now.
We understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone from the audience has anything to add? Anyone here in opposition? Anyone here for it? Where did everybody go? All of y'all's for it? Where's the opposition? You buy them all?
I was thinking that like it was just, I don't know.
We're not getting into that.
Okay.
We are not getting into that. Mr. Tatum, do you have anything else?
Just a couple things. The Bennett's bought their original north half of this property in 2002, prior to that 2003 code provision going into place. So they were even, at least vested in and purchased before that 2003 code provision that he's relying on. And they bought looking at the general scheme of development out there. As far as the reasonableness argument that he's making, I do not believe that, our reasonable use now is the way that it's been developed out there and what product that people expect to be able to purchase in that area. It's not reasonable to try to make us abide by these other setbacks, reducing our lot widths and potentially, our rights and our property. If you need testimony as to him purchasing the property in 2002, he's here and we'll testify to that. But
Covenant records speak of the side setback prior to 1996.
no, sir, they do not. They say that they would be as shown on the plat. Plat does not show.
The plat was recorded prior to 1996, and it does not show.
And it does not show.
There's no documentation of what those setbacks might have been in 1996.
Not that I have. Not in 1993.
Covenants for the project didn't include setbacks?
No, sir. What it says in the declaration, which you guys have, is that it would be as shown on the plat, and then whoever drew the plat never put in any setbacks. They did include a 15-foot drainage easement between each lot, which would imply 7.5-foot setback at least if you're not going to build in the drainage easement, but it doesn't actually say it's a setback.
I remember the last meeting we had quite a bit of discussion about it being a 10-foot. Discussing that this time, so why?
What happened? We went back, architect, engineer, trying to figure out a way to make it work, and there wasn't a way to make it work, given the issue with the drive aisles and the parking spaces, and the need to be able to actually create a marketable building.
But there was something in the code, there was some reference to one side of the lot.
Residential and one commercial.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's in the current code, where if you're adjacent to a single family, that's when you have to step up your height, depending on your height of or step up your setback, depending on the height of your building. That's where the adjacent to a single family comes into play.
Residential on the one side or the other, the setback automatically would need to.
That is correct, yes, sir. Now, Mr. Chick made a good observation when he was talking about, why are these even really considered multifamily? Because there are only 3 units in it, why isn't it a triplex? And a triplex would be considered single family. It's not a triplex based on Walton County's definition because it says they are adjoined by a center wall. So you would have to have 3 units adjoined by a center wall to be a triplex. And in order to do that on a 60-foot wide lot, you're still going to end up with extremely narrow units than if you were trying to do a triplex that way and go 4 stories tall. Again, something that's just not marketable, not reasonable to try to create.
So do these have to be condominiumized,
They will be condominiumized.
or any other units in that property condominiumized?
Yes, almost every single one you see on that Exhibit 6, it shows you like the Turtle Beach that's directly to our east, which is 4 individual structures with
That's
10 units.
is Turtle Beach.
I'm sorry, to the west is Turtle Beach.
West.
To the west is Turtle Beach. And it's all condominiumized. And if you pay attention to that particular property, they combined 2 lots in order to create that development. So they didn't have to meet their center setbacks. If they, if those lot lines had stayed in place, they would have had to have been set back. The buildings would have had to have been further apart. So that actually gave them more room to work also.
But was it his testimony that he had to give up 10 feet? Was it not his testimony that he had 10 feet on that side?
Whose testimony, sir?
The gentleman that was there with Turtle Beach, or the attorneys, and, there's 3 or 4 people here.
Yeah, I don't remember him saying that. All I know is that the survey shows that he's 7.3 feet off of the property line. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Y'all sure? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Close the public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion. We got 5 more. Somebody make a motion. Jeff, you from your mind. Make the
I'm gonna
motion.
make a motion to approve the 7.5-foot side setbacks for this project.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second. Beat me to it.
Yeah. Discussion?
I think it's in harmony with the rest of the development. Again, reverting back to item 6 of the handout and the dates at which the surrounding developments were finalized. Parcel to the west is 7.5 feet effectively. Again, I think it's in harmony with the rest of the development and subdivision.
Besides the harmony, I think staff had presented that they felt there was no hardship. So do you have any comments on that as far as the hardship that's been presented by? Because that is a particular item that must be addressed under the variance.
That is
Criteria.
up to you to decide, have to write the final order.
But I would love for this board to mention why they believe there is a hardship.
I think Jeff had a pretty good reason for it.
2 issues, and I think Cliff brought up a very good point about how the parking is to be handled. Cliff brought up a very good point about how the parking needs to be handled. So in order to have adequate parking and an adequate amount of drive aisle width, 20 and the 25 feet for a 45-foot buildable width, I think is reasonable, proper. I also feel that the rules changing after a project has matured, and hardship actually seems to be the application of county rules that are incompatible with previously developed.
I agree with that 100%.
I don't know that the burden is on them to prove that there's a hardship. I think the hardship is the county saying that using the original development standards is impractical.
There's your hardship.
Well, but that's why we have the zoning board of adjustment, so we can evaluate it and say, yes, in fact, to apply the county standards would be punitive, because it would be creating a project with half the usable width and would be totally impractical.
You agree with that, Mr. Burgess? That meets the hardship?
I do.
Started?
I'm in agreement.
think if they were gonna develop a new parcel into a subdivision, they would take into account the new county rules and design the project to meet those standards, but in this case, they've got a very narrow slice of land, and what they've come up with is actually a very elegant solution.
Engineer did his job.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Huggins?
I'm fine with it. Still go back to why we had such a long discussion and put on one side, and put on the other side. People that were presenting that obviously gave up.
Or agreed to it?
They agreed to the setback. I do agree that the 22-foot contract was that.
Ms. Waterman? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? I did a good job this time. I'm glad you brought the boss with you, and he made sure that you did a good job this time. Glad you did your engineering job this time. Man, geez, you won't get paid for doing nothing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
That cleaned the house, didn't it? We have another RV, Waynick Conditional Use. Waynick. State your name for the record, sir.
Bobby Waynick, W-A-Y-N-I-C-K.
Yes, sir.
I'm here to see if I can get approved.
You're over there in Oakwood Hills, Unit 1 or 2 or 3?
Do what, sir?
You're in Oakwood Hills 3?
I think it's 3. It's on out, back in the back.
What's the name of your road you on?
It's
Snowdrop?
Snowdrop.
Back over there in the woods, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Where everything around you is RVs and campers and
Well, actually, around me, there isn't anybody other than my neighbor across the street.
go in there, it's campers and mobile homes that's been there since the 60s when
Both
they developed
sides.
that.
Yes, sir.
They subgrade your road, aren't they?
Yep.
All you want to do is put a camper on your property.
That's it.
That's all you want to do.
For that and get my sewer and everything where I can live peacefully and, be productive to my wife.
You don't want to be homeless.
No, sir.
If you don't get this variance, you're going to be homeless, aren't you?
Well, I wouldn't say that directly. I'd be lying to
Oh,
you.
come on now. Help me out here. I'm trying to help you. Anybody has anything to add or say about this conditional use? This is over in Oakwood Hills, Unit 3. I personally think that the county made a major mistake when they did not take any consideration in allowing lots that is in the area that should be allowed for RVs and mobile homes and campers. And I think this fits them. Do you have anything else to say? Have a seat. We'll give you a chance to come back. Mr. Stephen, what you think?
Stephen Schoen, Planning Development Services. If I could have the staff report entered in the record, please. Great. Staff has determined that this application appears to meet the conditional use requirements as provided in the code and supports this application.
We got 2 yeses from you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Anyone here in opposition? Thank you, Stephen. Anyone here in opposition? Anybody has anything to say? Motion to close the public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion to approve this gentleman be able to live in RV on his property.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
You got your variance. Not your variance, your
Conditional
conditional use permit. Well, just hang on a minute. You gotta come up here. You gotta pay the board $500 for us doing this.
Yes.
No, we're joking with you. What you have to do is wait till Mr. Hayward issue an order. Is that right, Mr. Hayward?
Yes, sir. We'll have that either tomorrow or the next day out.
Tomorrow is Wednesday, Tuesday. We should have this done by Thursday if I do what I'm supposed to do. Right, Hayward? We would try to have it by Thursday. If we can, we do it late Wednesday so they can pick it up Thursday and have it recorded. You should have it by Friday.
Great, if you don't, it's perfect.
Hey, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you. Next item on the agenda, we got another conditional use. Come up. How you pronounce your name? Pardon me?
Last name is Comeau, Wayne Comeau.
Come on.
Sir.
That's kind of like the New York, is that the mayor?
Cuomo.
Governor.
That's Cuomo. No relation. Spelled different.
All right, what you up to tonight? Where are you at?
We're at-
My goodness, you down here in the south end, and you want to put a camper in the south end.
Well, we acquired that property a couple months back, and I'd like to acquire an address so I can pull a permit to put a power pole on that property. And we're just gonna basically use it to pull our camper out there in our fishing boat, and maybe on the weekends just go fishing.
Where you at?
Canal Drive in Steelfield.
You over there in Bunker?
Excuse me?
Bunker area?
I'm not really sure.
Let me see what section of town here. Yeah, you're over there around Bunker.
Okay.
What you used to call Bunker. You have to go around Bay County to come in there,
Yes, sir. Steelfield Road, then it makes a right-hand turn up on the back there.
but you have to come in by Bay.
Yes, sir.
Back in the day, they had a barge that went back, a ferry. Ferry
Oh.
went back and forth back in the day. That was before your day. Tell us a little bit what's down in there. Is there a lot of campers down there? Back in the-
There's a couple campers, it's mostly mobile homes, and there is some nice houses in there.
How big is your lot?
It is less than a quarter acre.
And you're gonna put a
We just
deep
want,
hole with a septic tank so you can take.
no, we are just pulling our camper out there on the weekends, and I will bring everything with me. I bring my portable water, and my waste stays in my tank and my camper, and I bring it home to my house where I have a place to dispose of it. So we're just basically gonna go out there weekends and go fishing, have a campfire.
Where you live?
I live in Southport, Bay County.
Bay County.
Yes, sir.
Michael mess you up?
I'm sorry?
Did Michael mess you up?
Oh, yeah, I lost everything.
Did-
Yes, sir.
Any questions for the gentleman? Have a seat, sir. We'll be with you in just a minute. Stephen, what do you think?
If I could have the staff report into the record, please.
Low enter?
Great. Again, staff has determined that this application satisfies the conditional use requirements of the Land Development Code and supports the application.
Good, thank you. Anyone here in opposition? We got some people about to go to sleep back there. Y'all must be next. I'm talking about you, ma'am. Motion to close the public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion to approve the conditional use.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
You got your request. Let's see, we already got 2 to do by Friday. It may be Friday week before we get around to this. Is that all right? You easy to get along with. We try to have it to you by Thursday. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take and, he's gonna prepare the final order. I'm gonna sign it. We're gonna give it to the, planning department to record. And once that's done, Stephen, he can need something from you. You gotta get your permit, then apply for the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Once the permit is issued, then the address should be attached to that.
Okay.
I don't work on that side, so I'm not exactly sure, but I believe that's the case.
We get the final order, get it reported, you get the permit submitted, and call the address department, tell them you're ready. Okay?
In the past, the address was issued with the permit.
In the past, speak up.
As in the past, when you would apply for your permit, they would issue an address at that time. They would get with the GIS mapping and do it then.
Right, you won't get it until you apply for the permit. So once the order comes through, you'll be allowed to apply for the permit, and then you should get your address.
I believe you'll have to get a document from planning saying that it's okay to move forward, and then you'll apply for the permit at a separate office than the planning department.
Get all the planning about Friday. You should have the document from us to get your building permit, okay? If you have any questions, just keep calling planning. They do have a new county commissioner that's right there in their office, so if you have any questions, he's in District 1, it might cover you, Mr. McCormick, he'd be glad to talk to you. He'll help you out, all right? Thank you. Who's next on the agenda? Rozelle, conditional use for RV, if I say that right?
David
State your name.
Rozelle,
State your name.
David Rozelle, Rozelle.
What you want, Mr. Rozelle?
We want to get a provisional permit to put our RV on our lot.
You're out there in Oakwood Hills.
Yes, we're in Section 3, Oakwood Hills.
How long you owned it?
A little over a year.
Live in it?
Yes. I mean, the RV or the lot?
RV.
Oh, the RV we've owned since 2006.
Do you live in it?
Yes, we've lived in it. We've been full-time RVing for 11 years.
So you one of those that retired and got you an RV and you travel the world, now you want a place to park it?
Exactly. And we fell in love with Devoniac Springs, and we decided to make this our home.
I'll be glad to have you. Anybody has any questions? You're on Highway 90.
Highway 90 and Windflower Street.
You got a good lot there, don't you? Right off of Valley View.
Yes, we do.
Those are good lots. Thank you, sir. Mr. Stephen?
If I could have the staff report entered in the record, please. Great. And yet again, staff has determined that the application for conditional use appears to satisfy the requirements of the Land Development Code, and staff supports the application.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Motion to close the public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve. Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Get with the planning department about Friday. Have the documentation. Okay? What happened to your arm, ma'am? That's what RVing to do for you, wear that arm out longer.
Nah, I beat him up too much.
I believe that now.
Pick this off, I'll show you the proof.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We appreciate y'all coming.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I have to abstain because I wasn't here for that.
You can still vote
You can
for it.
actually vote on those. You don't have to be here.
Can't verify their accuracy. I abstain.
We don't have any other business motion that he wants to get out of here. You ready to go home? Motion to adjourn?
That's my son Gavin. He is preparing for civics by attending this week.
Oh, really? I was wondering
He
what
goes to the Seaside School. He's in the 7th grade.
Good deal. Do speech contest?
They did that already. This is a requirement, so he's only here because he has to be.
Can we get him to take your place next time?
You ready?
He can fill in. Good deal. Glad that you came even though you was made to come.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Did you learn anything?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Great.
You see how vocal your daddy is even in the meetings?
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.